The EU and the UK are currently negotiating hard about their future relationship. The goal is a free trade agreement from January, but the Northern Ireland question in particular is causing controversy. On January 31st of this year, the UK left the European Union after 40 years. There will be a transition phase until the end of the year. The British will remain part of the EU internal market and a member of the customs union, and EU law does continue to apply in many areas in the UK. This is what it says in an exit treaty ratified by both sides. During the exit negotiations, the EU and the UK agreed that they want to reach a free trade agreement by the end of this transition phase. But the chances of this have deteriorated significantly recently, and several rounds of negotiations ended with no progress. The biggest bone of contention is an internal market law passed by the British lower house that would undermine parts of the withdrawal treaty. But there are also disputes with regard to competitive conditions and the rules for fishing. British Prime Minister Johnson and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen reaffirmed in a joint declaration at the beginning of October how important an agreement is for relations between the EU and the UK. Johnson has set October 15th as the final ultimatum for the negotiations. The EU has advocated a slightly longer deadline. Failure of the negotiations would mean a hard breakup on January 1st. The long road to Brexit was marked from the start by difficult negotiations between London and Brussels. On June 23, 2016, the British voted in a referendum with around 52% of the vote to leave the European Union. After the law was passed by the House of Commons, then British Prime Minister Theresa May formally initiated exit negotiations with the EU in March 2017. According to Article 50 of the EU Treaty, the negotiations were initially intended to be concluded within 2 years. That means by March 29, 2019, but the deadline had to be extended several times. In November 2018, May managed to negotiate a provisional exit agreement, which was approved by the 27 remaining EU countries. Despite repeated negotiations, the agreement negotiated by May failed several times in the British House of Commons in 2019. In order to prevent a Brexit without a contract, the exit date has been postponed once more. May's successor Boris Johnson considered in the summer of 2019, if necessary, to leave the EU without an agreement at the end of October. This did not happen because of resistance in Parliament. After new elections, Johnson, supported by a new majority in the Conservative Party, succeeded on December 20th, 2019 in getting an exit agreement he had negotiated with the EU through the lower house. After the approval of the House of Lords and the EU Parliament in January 2020, the exit was completed on January 31st of this year. The withdrawal agreement between the EU and the UK regulates, among other things, that EU citizens who currently live in the UK can continue to work or study in their host country and enjoy social security. The rights of the British living in the EU are also laid down in it. The treaty also contains a Northern Ireland Protocol, which should regulate the future EU external border in Ireland. It provides that Northern Ireland will remain part of the British customs territory after the end of the transition phase, but at the same time form a special customs partnership with the EU. All relevant EU internal market rules are to continue to be applied in Northern Ireland. 4 years after the protocol came into force, the Northern Irish Parliament can vote for or against further application. Johnson had pushed for these regulations. A British law initiated by the British Prime Minister, but not yet approved by the House of Lords, violates the treaty and would override some provisions of the withdrawal agreement. And just because it comes up over and over again, tabling this bill alone was a breach of the withdrawal agreement. That's a legal fact. But let's get back to that law. Specifically, it's about Northern Ireland. According to the treaty, Northern Ireland should remain more closely linked to the EU customs union and the EU internal market than the rest of the UK. The aim of this measure is to prevent the Northern Ireland conflict from flaring up again, and no one can want that. From Johnson's point of view, however, the provisions on Northern Ireland in the withdrawal agreement split the United Kingdom, because according to the agreement, controls are required on freight traffic with the rest of the UK. The British government fears that Northern Ireland could be decoupled. London, therefore, wants a new regulation. The European Commission, meanwhile, insists on full compliance with the withdrawal treaty and has therefore taken the first steps towards infringement proceedings that could still lead to an action before the European Court of Justice after the United Kingdom left all parts of the EU. Not only in the EU is fear great that Johnson's plans could lead to a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland and thus violate the so-called Good Friday Agreement or the Belfast Agreement. The latter regulates the 1998 peace between Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland. Some warned in the event that the Single Market Act should come into effect after possible approval from the House of Lords, that civil war can flare up in Northern Ireland again. How? I really don't get how someone can even think about going that path. And another point of contention, the British government wants the EU and the UK to be free of tariffs in accordance with the guidelines of the WTO. The European Union, on the other hand, believes that due to the large volume of trade, the same environmental, social and subsidy rules are necessary in order to make competition fair. And the state aid cannot be a big issue anymore because the UK negotiated a trade deal with Japan which much stricter state aid rules than the EU ever asked for. A separation without a trade agreement would have far-reaching consequences for the economies of the UK and the EU countries. Many export-orientated companies in the EU, especially here in Germany, would have to reckon with losses. And no one ever denied that. The prospect of tariffs has already caused the exchange of goods and services between the EU and the UK to decline in some sectors, such as the automotive or banking sector, since the Brexit decision. In the event of a hard Brexit, experts fear not only a further slump in trade, but also longer queues at the border and possible delivery bottlenecks for important imports such as food or medicines. According to forecasts, the consequences of tariffs and border controls would hit the UK harder than the remaining EU states. And that's not a wonder. If 50% of your exports go somewhere, and it will be hit. It's much worse than if it's 6% of your exports that are getting hit. But if you want to support my channel a bit further, you can either become a member or a patron or both. You find the links and the information in the description. If you're interested in more European or global politics, you can become a subscriber with this button and immediately watch another of my videos YouTube has chosen for you right here in the end screen. I'll see you in my next video. Click and enjoy. Viel Spaß!